Well, let's talk about President Trump, and let's talk about what Democrats are doing. So Democrats right now are taking a play from Alex Jones's playbook. That's hard to say.
Because it's unbelievable.
I know, really, but it really is. If you dive into it, Democrats are looking at what Alex Jones is saying about President Trump, and they're pulling a Trump card. So a few months ago, and once again just a few weeks ago, Alex Jones warned Trump that he better denounce the COVID vaccines before the Democrats started blaming him for it. Now, there's a joke running around that, oh my God, Alex Jones predicted it again. He got it right again, right? So once again, people call Jones a conspiracy theorist. Like, Democrats are not going to slam President Trump for this, for vaccines. Like, they love vaccines. They're all about it, right?
That's their thing.
That's their thing. They loved lockdowns. They loved mandates. They loved all of those things.
They did. And they love telling you to love it too, and calling you selfish if you don't.
So they labeled,
I remember them saying, we got it in this many arms, and they're just like so proud of it.
Exactly. So they absolutely loved the fact that these vaccines were out there and available. And Jones, people labeled Jones a conspiracy theorist. But guess what? We don't label him that here. We don't label him like that on our show. And so Democrats then now, over the past few days, the House of Representatives, led by Democrats, just released a brand new report attacking Donald Trump for pressuring the FDA to authorize unproven treatments for COVID-19. You can't even make this up. And they approved the first COVID-19 vaccine before election without collecting enough safety data, Democrats say. The complaint alleges that Trump's staffers strongly urged health officials like the former FDA commissioner, Stephen Hahn, to authorize the jabs, as well as other unproven COVID treatments in a hurried manner. Next, the report goes on to say that Team Trump strong-armed the FDA to deliver misleadingly positive news about convalescent plasma as a coronavirus treatment on the eve of the 2020 Republican National Convention. And more. I mean, it's more detailed. We'll go through some of the other chunks of this. But finally, the House subcommittee claims that Trump blocked FDA from issuing guidance on coronavirus vaccine authorizations for weeks in an attempt to ensure that the first vaccine could be authorized before the 2020 presidential election. And we know that Trump had expressed, enormous desire to have these vaccines be approved as quickly as they could.
Yes,
right?
He also wanted antiviral treatments to be approved as well, and that was shut down.
So according to Politico, White House officials said they would not sign off on emergency use authorization language that required a 60-day safety follow-up for late-stage clinical trials. Ultimately, the FDA went ahead with the 60-day follow-up plan without an explicit blessing from the White House, though the White House later cleared it. So that was that was shoved in there, that 60-day. They wanted it out of there. They didn't want any follow-up to see about any adverse effects or any other issues. So they pulled that out of there.
Wait. I got to think this through.
All right, well, you think that through.
So the White House did not want to require 60-day safety follow-ups, but the FDA really wanted it then. Okay, and then when we juxtapose that with the news this week that the FDA is willing to approve a Pfizer Omicron vaccine with no clinical trials.
Right.
They don't have Trump pressuring them. Why do they need to? They can make their own decisions now, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. They're the FDA. Like, why would they cave to the pressure of a president anyway? That's not their job.
Wouldn't that be great if people would ask the White House press secretary about these questions? Like, why are Democrats issuing a report slamming President Trump for trying to get vaccines to market as quickly as possible, bypassing certain safety protocols and rushing these things to market? But now the FDA is even going 10 steps further.
And saying no clinical trials are necessary. So they really felt strongly about it under President Trump, but they don't under President Biden.
Apparently not. But Democrats are going to use this now. My theory, of course, is now they're going to use it as a cudgel in the election. And Alex Jones was right about this. So, and about a week and a half ago, Alex Jones came out saying he was giving up on Trump. And he's like, look, I'm giving you one last chance to throw my support behind you, because unless you come out and denounce these vaccines, you're not going to get our support. Like, we now know all of the negative effects of this, and you're still pushing this. So here was President Trump. Remember, this was a big moment where he got booed, and it did not go over too well. He came out because I think he had a lot of birdies in his ear. Like, this is an interesting moment for Trump, right? This was his first big rally in Alabama, and so he has all these birdies in his ear, like, hey, what Fauci and others are telling us is that this is saving all kinds of lives. So you were pushing for this really hard. You were telling everyone you were pushing for this. You were pushing for this. Then you go out on the podium, and you should take credit for it. You should take credit for it. And then, of course, then we started seeing all of the adverse effects and all the problems. And so many people saying, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. And he goes out in Alabama, and this happened. Watch.
In your freedoms, I do. You got to do what you have to do. But I recommend take the vaccines. I did it. It's good. Take the vaccines. But no, that's okay. That's all right. You got your freedoms. But I happen to take the vaccine. If it doesn't work, you'll be the first to know. But you do have your freedoms. You have to maintain that. You have to maintain that. And you got to get your kids back to school.
That was funny because they're like ready to applaud whatever he says next. Like, yeah. Oh, no, we don't. We're not for that, actually.
Right. Wait, did he just say that? No, we're not. And then he gets the booze, and you can see him switch course there. He's like, oh, but you got your freedoms. You got personal freedoms. I got that. And he's like, I got it. And then he doubled down on it. So after that backlash, then he went on the I think it was the Right Network. I forget the name of the exact network. And he did a radio call-in, and he was asked specifically about it once again. And instead of like going back on it, he was, I guess, getting advice from someone, I don't know, to go double down on it. And this is when Alex Jones lost it and said, Democrats are going to use this against you. Watch this moment.
Mandates are bad, and I say it strongly. I'm very proud of the vaccines. We got it done, as you know, Brian. We got it done very rapidly in less than 9 months. It was supposed to take 5 to 12 years, and they wouldn't come up, most likely wouldn't have come up with the right answer. And we have 3 of them, great ones and great therapeutics. We got a lot of it done, but the mandates are horrible.
Yeah. So doubling down on it. But again, the White House exerted pressure on the FDA for these emergency use authorizations, and the Democrats are now going to use this. It's like you're seeing this. I mean, we're in the middle of a bizarro world, because if you watch the top of our show tonight, we brought you the breaking news about YouTube. And YouTube today changed their guidelines on what you're allowed to say about COVID on its platform. And what was once would get you banned a few months ago for saying certain things, now if you say the opposite, you're fine. And you'll get banned for saying what you couldn't say before.
Yeah.
I mean, what I got it reversed.
But this is a very disingenuous argument, because no one forced Democrats to take the vaccine and run with it as their official party platform, right? So, okay, if that was the case, that we know that Trump did absolutely want the vaccine out before election, and that he wanted credit for it when he was outgoing. These things are provable. He said so, right? But then Democrats adopted it and we even saw recently the Biden White House came out and said, we are the ones who got everyone vaccinated, right?
And then they had a tweet.
They had to walk that back.
They had a tweet up for like 2 weeks that was factually inaccurate, where it said, we got the vaccine to the American people and saved lives.
Right,
like,
which
that's
is
what it
not
said.
true, right? But so they want to take the credit for it until they don't, right?
And so I think you're seeing this.
Trump was out of office just weeks after the vaccine started to roll out. So if they really felt like this was a misstep on Trump, then they wouldn't have been pressuring everybody to take it and shaming those who didn't.
Yeah. It's amazing that this subcommittee's findings, I'm like, so it was again led by House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn of South Carolina. And he said, quote, the subcommittee's findings that the Trump White House officials deliberately and repeatedly sought to bend FDA's scientific work on coronavirus treatments and vaccines to the White House's political will are yet another example of how the prior administration prioritized politics over public health.
Which has, What? Okay.
It's exactly
Which
what
has
you're doing.
happened throughout the entire Democratic rule.
So just think about this for a second. Biden, because I can't, I always want to cut through the hypocrisy of these people. You remember President Biden on the campaign trail when he was asked if he would take a Trump vaccine, said, no way. Remember he said that?
I thought it was Kamala Harris that said.
No, he said it.
Okay.
President Biden.
Oh, they all said it. Kamala said it. He said it. Several people said it.
Yeah, then candidate Biden said, I would not take it. No way. Not if, because his reason was that it was, why would you take something that was that rushed and was basically done by this guy, meaning Trump?
Right.
Like that rushed and this guy. And then they want to take credit for it later. And now they want to blame Trump for it. Like, this is amazing. And again, I come back to the point that Dr. Peter McCullough and all of these other doctors have made about clinical trials is you can't have any accurate data for at least a minimum of 2 years of clinical trials, right? I think that's the minimum.
Yeah.
Or maybe even more than that. And that, as Trump even talked about, they're telling us, it could take 6, 7, 8, even 8 years before we get this vaccine. There's no way on my watch that's going to happen. We're going to get it done as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was all political malpractice. Like,
Sure.
we knew that this was, and now we're entering this new era now with the FDA where you don't have to have any clinical trials. Like, they're just going to rush them out.
No, not necessary. So we refer you to the video we did earlier this week about the Omicron vaccine and how the FDA is just absolutely not requiring clinical trials. And they feel like the animals that they tested it on is okay.
I just think more largely, Democrats are seeing the writing on the wall. They're seeing that, and you're seeing YouTube, you're seeing all these people now backtracking on vaccines and the COVID vaccines. You're seeing masking, you're seeing the about face on masking and all of this stuff. And I feel like, as someone said in our chat last night, they're preparing for like Nuremberg 2 trials. Like, we're entering an era now where this is going to be like, this is maybe perhaps one of the greatest lies ever told. And these people are trying to be on the right side of it.
Which makes you wonder, all of these wars that are being provoked around the world would be a great distraction, right? We wouldn't have to do this if we had a big global conflict. Then it's like, oh, COVID, it's in our rearview mirror. Don't ask us questions.
Yeah.